And I'm going to go on and start the recording now. Glad to see all of you here today. You joined the 360 Exchange. And today's topic is scaling volunteer-led events, models that work. One of the reasons this topic came to me is in trying to do work locally, I found that regardless of trying to think of everything in advance, there's always something that comes up. And I can't believe that there aren't people in this room who will have thought of all of the things I missed and would help me and other people figure out how to make sure that the events we offer to whomever are exactly what we want and what our participants want to be a part of. So, Dr. Clark, are you ready for the first question?
Yes. And everybody to our conversation today, and I'm sure we'll have people joining us. Those of you who have just joined us, if you can either change your name by adding your state to it so we know who's in the room, or place it in chat, and Deborah or I will be glad to update your name. It's always helpful to know in the event that somebody wants to reference you and some comment that you made, they know what state you're representing. So today, as we're talking about scaling volunteer-led events, models at work, my first question to you is, how do we simplify volunteer-led event planning without reducing quality? And as you think about that, I know that there have been comments at events that I've attended or facilitated by the audience, the community. They really don't know who is a staff member or who a volunteer is. And that's what we like. We like to be unidentifiable, whether it's a staff-led or a volunteer-led. And those are some of the qualities that the expertise of each of us as volunteers bring to AARP because of our vast background. So, having said that, how do we simplify volunteer-led event planning without reducing quality and honoring the expertise that the volunteers bring to the table?
If I could speak, Ramel Cooks here from Georgia. Last year, one of the things that we focused on was fraud and scamming. So we did an event. Somebody in some other place in the country did something called Scam Jam, and I was just really impressed by that name. So we just picked it up in Georgia, and we did a Scam Jam. And we put together a team because we were doing it for the whole community. Was invited to it, and we put together a team of 8 people, and all of us had assignments. We met every week, one day, an hour meeting every week for like probably 7 weeks before the event. And then we went to every 2 weeks because at that point we were down to where we had all the details laid out. One person, somebody was responsible the event site, working with the people there about what we needed for tables, chairs, whatever. Somebody was responsible for signage. We had 2 people responsible for speakers, another person responsible for the developing the agenda. And so we just kind of took a team and we put it all together. Then every time we got together in a meeting, each person brought their piece of that meeting to the table. And some people were great at it and would have it perfect. And some people had missed things. And so we were up, what about this factor? Or did you get permission from them to actually do that with their materials? Those kinds of things. I think having a team, and we have like 45 or 50 active volunteers in Augusta. And so we just took 8 people and put them on a planning team, and we kind of like that approach. And so now that whenever we have an event, that's kind of how we're doing it. Whether it's our Christmas party, we have a team. We did a caregiving event. We had a team to do it. So that's the approach we use. Sorry, talk so much.
No, thank you. Very helpful, Romel. That team approach and those assignments, that's a very effective way to do it. Everybody knows what their responsibility is and the beat goes on. So thank you for sharing
I
that.
think the weekly reporting back though was the most effective part of it because you kind of, I mean, now we know everybody where everybody is, and if there's something that's difficult to get done, we everybody could suggest other ways to make it happen. You know, we were trying to get the Georgia Bureau of Investigation to be a part of our local program, and that's like the biggest investigators of fraud in the state. So we figured out, does anybody know anybody in the organization? Can we use a network to get it done? And I didn't know anybody in GBI, but I knew somebody in the patrol, so I used that, and it worked. We got them.
Very good. Thank you. Baron, I saw your hand up.
You did indeed. So a couple things. One, I like that division of labor idea that was just shared. I think that totally makes sense. And I think it capitalizes on the skills and capabilities of a vast audience of volunteers. So that's always a good thing. One of the things that we're trying to, and we're fairly new in Ann Arbor, Michigan, we're about, I'd say, 16 to 18 months old. So we're experimenting continuously with new approaches. And one of the things that I've really tried to organize is as new ideas come up for either events with volunteers or activities that might be engaged in by the volunteers outside of just our core group, is to always ensure that we have what I'm going to call an anchor or a grounding that says what that we're thinking about doing will find its anchor in the purpose of AARP. What that we're doing is going to align with the priorities of aging seniors. What that we're deciding might be a good idea will help us continue to build on the theme, fill in the blank. And so the takeaway in that is really demonstrating amongst our core volunteer group, not just this is a great idea, because there's a lot of great ideas out there, but more so be able to draw to the French raison d'être, the reason for being. Why are we doing this? And why do we think it's going to make a difference to those that participate? So it's really the logistics piece on who does what, but also the grounding of the what that we do in a way that's going to be relevant for us to continue what we do.
Thank you. And I think that's an effective way to just kind of keep everybody on target, not only with the event, but where it connects with the AARP priorities. So excellent contribution, Baron. Thank you so much for sharing. Anyone else? How do we simplify volunteer-led events planning without reducing quality? Kathy, I see your hand.
Hi, everybody. I actually have a question about the question.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm with you. Go ahead. I can't wait to see what you say because I had a question about the question.
So the question implies that planning for an event is complex, which I think it is, and that it can be different for volunteers planning and staff planning, right? And so we all know there's events from super easy to super complicated, right? Events is a big word at ARP. So my question, I guess back to either Mary or Deborah or any of the group is, what part needs to be, or do you wish was simpler for volunteers? If you're a volunteer that thinks, oh my gosh, this is so complicated, can't we just, or why don't we, or I don't need to hear all this part, versus a volunteer who says, bring me in on all the nitty and the gritty. I want to know it all, right? So just curious from a volunteer's point of view, what do you wish was more simple or anything along that line? Thanks.
Okay. Well, rather than answer at this point, I'm holding on your question. Ramel, you said you had a question as well.
Right. And it was that question. What
Okay.
the things that need to be simpler for us aren't things that we control, like contracting or budgeting. The things that are critical are, have we gotten that approved? Like if we're going to have a shred truck, we don't pay for the shred truck. The office, ASD, the state pays for the shred truck. So now we know we want it there. And it's simpler is we can't get it. We can't pay for it. We can't contract for it. We can't sign for anything. So those are the things that kind of aren't simple for us. if we're going to have lots of signs made to say this way, park here, sign in here, those kind of signage, we don't print signage. So those are the things that aren't simple. And I see Kathy shaking her head. Are you agreeing, Kathy?
No, that's really helpful. And I think that raising it here is great because somebody might say, oh, we just do our signs this way, right? So kind of getting down into the nitty and the gritty of what's a frustration or what's a stopping point for you as a volunteer who is working to lead things, I think is helpful also to the discussion. For folks might have different ways to approach it.
Yeah, different state offices run their budgeting and their finances very different ways. So, maybe you get in some communities or maybe you say, okay, this is your budget and you guys manage your own budget because you know how much you have. You just put in the request for it and they get it done based on the budget that you have. But I guess some states keep their budget in the state office, and volunteer groups don't actually get assigned a budget or what have you. ASDs get assigned a budget, but that's still something that's out of the state office and doesn't get down to the volunteer level.
And if I can just add to the conversation,
Mhm.
and it kind of tacks on to a little bit of what Barron said earlier about connecting to the bigger picture of AARP and the reason for being. I would say that simplify is in the eye of the beholder. And it also connects with what I said originally about the vast experience level of all the volunteers that are working. Something that may be simple for me because I've done it for 25 years may not be a task that anyone would ever want to even venture into because they have no knowledge of it. So I think instead of defining what simplify means, that's why we want to throw the question out to all of you because simplify has as many definitions for as many people who are in these boxes on this meeting. And we don't want to ignore any of them, or we don't want to we want to include we want to include everything. So I guess that's my answer to the question or my answer to the answer. And I see Baron, you have your hand up again.
Yeah, and just one more thing to kind of piggyback. The other thing, and we're just thinking about this now because it's only just a year plus in a sort of existence, and that is to always find a way to use what survey data you have from the local seniors community in order to guide the kinds of things you're undertaking. I mean, we love our shred events. We've done 3 of them already in 18 months. But do we believe that they are so important and so enduring that we have to do them every 6 months?
No.
Or should we be putting the energy into something else so that the contracting for the shredder from Staples, for example, is not something we have to have on every 6 months basis. We just do it on. And so it's kind of like to the extent that we have existing survey data that we have actually executed in our local areas, I find that using that not only for our volunteer work, but also I like to open up an event with it as a part of my welcome speech. You ask us for fill in the blank. And so today is brought to you by AARP in order to fulfill some of the hopes and aspirations that you're seeking from us. So there's always that little sound bite in the brain that we try to make sure that we convey at the front of our events.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm going to move on to the next question because it kind of ties to something that has already been mentioned, but hopefully will expand the conversation. What are examples of replicable event models that other states or teams can adopt? And Romel already indicated that they saw Scam Jam, they liked Scam Jam, they replicated Scam Jam, and they did Scam Jam. Are there any other models that anyone has seen and replicated? I know AARP College is something that Michigan has done several times. I've seen it pop up in other locations called either AARP College or something else. Are there other things that other people have done? What examples of replicable event models that other states and teams can adopt?
Oh, I don't want to talk too much because I'll be wait for somebody else, I guess.
Well, while people are thinking, one of the questions I had in that statement in terms of replicable events, it's not just for me talking about the scam jams or the particular types of events, as much as it is how do we routinely frame those so that, as Baron is mentioning, we get the information from the community, or we get information from the volunteers who are involved to understand at the end that what we've done is something that is successful, and it is successful for these reasons. So it's even more than just a model of the particular event, because we've got movies for grown-ups, we've got all kind of our charcuterie board things that we did, ice cream socials, there are all kinds of things out there. But do we have a way, and is there something that you can share that helps to explain how we get the information from either the community, the volunteers, attendees, whatever, to make sure that we're doing what is out there? Now, Barry,
I guess I think that we probably do a pretty, I don't know that we do a great job of that.
mhm,
You know,
yeah,
we put together, we have movies for grown-ups, and people register, 250 people register, 110 show up. Um,
right.
they come in, they get their popcorn, they watch the movie. They know AARP is putting it on because we go down the beginning and talk to them about it, and they walk out the door. We don't know if that was a good thing, a bad thing, and wish I hadn't come. I'm glad I came, or whatever. I mean, I guess
Mhm,
we don't do a good follow-up on assessment. I mean, one of the requirements of getting to come to all the free stuff, and we don't ever charge anybody for anything. Everything we do for them is free. Um, and at least it's been that's how we do it. We don't charge people for stuff. We don't even ask them to fill out a piece of paper to say, I liked it, I don't like it, this was helpful, it wasn't helpful, don't do it again. And so maybe we have to start doing some kind of an assessment and look at that assessment. When we do our state plan, we come up with our
mhm,
three focus areas that we're going to work on, you know, fun and entertainment, health and wellness, pocketbook issues or whatever, Medicare, Social Security, those. And then
mhm,
we build events have to fit into one of those program areas. Otherwise, you're not going to get to do it. I mean, if it doesn't,
yeah,
you know, fit there, if it doesn't serve to improve or toward that goal, if it doesn't contribute something toward achieving that goal, but we don't know if we really did it, because even though we think that fraud helped, it was a pocketbook issue for people to keep them from being defrauded, we spent like weeks planning it and a whole day
mhm,
doing it, and then where's the data to say we did something except to count numbers? We can only count bodies. We knew that
mhm,
80 people put stuff in the shred truck. We know that 122 people came and sat and listened to the presentations, and that it lasted. We put in 4 hours, and we used 37 volunteers. We can do those kind of numbers.
mhm.
All just quantitative stuff, but what is the qualitative stuff that says we made a difference with this? And I don't know how you get to that. I mean,
Does anyone at this point use a listening post of some kind? Like you were mentioning when the movies for grown-ups starts, is there something that people can say, I would like to have this happen going forward? Or I was just wondering.
hmm.
Okay, Gloria, it looked like you were going to say something.
I'm looking for the audio.
Okay, got it.
Yes, in the past, there have been, depending on what the topic was about, we have a set
Mhm,
of Post-it notes and ask
mhm,
for their ideas on whatever the issue was about. Right now, probably we would be asking about Social Security because that's such a big issue nationally, at least, and what are their thoughts? So yes, we've done that. And we've also used that Social Security thing where you let the little ball bounce down to the end,
Mhm.
trying to,
Well,
so it engages people.
Right.
But I think that's probably done across the country also.
we do that, but we think it's because they want to get a prize. And
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
But I was thinking about tabling events and
Mhm.
how the, I haven't been to one in a long time other than for livability communities last year at a planning association, and it gives you a chance to talk about livable communities and how it affects everybody. And there were a lot of young planners at this meeting, and they didn't know anything about our age-friendly network. And
Mhm.
so this was the time to connect with people that will have influence down the road. But thinking of that also, if you're at a tabling event and someone asks you a question, let's say about Social Security or whatever, you need to have some idea of what AARP expects you to respond with. So there's training involved with, we sometimes put new people on tabling events, but we need to make sure that they have gotten the training and know the information about AARP, and not to get in a discussion, partisan discussion,
Right.
because that never is a good idea. Um, but you're talking about movies for grown-ups. I know we've gotten a lot of volunteers from that.
Mhm.
And so it's a way of being in the community and meeting new people, and they really are unaware of what AARP could do, and they're so excited when they find out that we're here and that they can be a part of it. So that's always nice
isn't
to.
it
That's rewarding.
amazing that AARP is so big? Everybody knows the names. Everybody knows the red AARP, but they don't know how we function. Like people at my churches, I said, I should become a member of AARP. There's lots of benefits for seniors. And I'm saying, they said, I got my card, but I still don't know what to do. I mean,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I think,
Mhm.
it's like, or you say to people, we're recruiting for volunteers. They're saying, oh, I'm already a member.
Mm.
Mhm.
They don't know the difference between a member and a volunteer.
Right.
But I think we're starting to implement an onboarding process here in Georgia that we started about, I guess, in June, where we're trying to change that immediately
Mhm.
when a new person comes on board. It's been we spent 7 months putting it together, the planning process for onboarding new volunteers.
Mhm.
And I
Okay.
think it's going to be marvelous. I hope Georgia will eventually write it up because we put a lot of energy into
That
getting,
would be good. And that would be good to help all of us. So
yeah.
thank you. Baron, I see you've got your hand up, sir.
Yeah, and I'm looking both at the chat too, so I'm going to respond to Kathy's question to Gloria because part of my response will be in that context. So perfect timing. Um, we have used movies for grown-ups talking at the front of the movie as a way to introduce ourselves, who we are as volunteers, and the role that we play, and how much we welcome them to this event, blah, blah, blah. But then we also make sure that they have two things. At the end of the movie, we display the big QR code, and that QR code sits on the screen that the movie has now just finished on. And not only do they have the opportunity to use their phone real time and focus it on the screen to get that QR code, but then as they go out, we thank them for participating and give them a piece of paper. We would like your feedback. And they now have the QR code on the piece of paper as well. And so what we found is that doing that in a what I'll call soft push sort of way has really helped us garner interest in not only what the thing was and their points of view on the thing we did, but also then we asked that question, would you be willing to discover volunteerism with AARP? So we pick up a lot of our new members just asking the question.
Where
All
did you
right.
get the card? Did you develop it yourself?
Yeah, the QR code is something that actually exists on our, I guess, must be the state level. That is a survey document. We have a third party called Live Tech that acts as our setup for all of our big events. And so Live Tech was the one that created this QR code for us. And so anytime Like we were at a big Celtic event about 3 Saturdays ago, and whenever somebody played a Hatchet game where they had to answer questions and win a prize, they also got the QR code to respond, and that was all provided by this third-party company called Live Tech that we use to set up our events.
Are they free, or are they part of they give you these services?
No, I mean, you can have your person that sits at your state office can create them. Anybody that works on the web can create a
Yeah,
QR code.
well, I just didn't know if you had done it outside of the office or through the office. Okay.
Oh, no, we definitely do it through the office, but then Live Tech people make sure that it's implemented at each site.
We have cards. We have QR cards. I'll put it in front of my face.
Okay.
That we have on every table and that we take with every presentation of Speakers Bureau, whatever. We always have these available. And you can put your own name on the back if you want them to reach out to you and learn more. Otherwise, they can scan this code and go on to aarp.org.
Okay. So
Yeah.
Gloria, where'd you get those cards?
Bettina,
Okay.
when she started working with us, she went right to this, and it took a while. But I do not know the background of it. But if you,
That's fine.
Bettina is the person to ask.
Okay.
We just
Okay.
got a card at our last meeting. Oh, somebody's at my door.
No, go on, Miss Romel.
No,
Somebody
we just started using that card, something like that.
Oh, okay.
So while she
Okay.
gets her door, I'm going to put this question in. We've already kind of begun addressing it, but are there parts of the planning that are commonly delayed, duplicated, or forgotten? And that card sounds like something that can be added in for, to get some additional feedback. And how is quality currently monitored before, during, and after events? So we've kind of touched on this a little bit
Mhm.
already, but
Mhm.
I just wanted to articulate the question in case anyone else that hasn't spoken has anything that they want to add to that.
Yeah.
Well, we do our onboarding introduction to AARP Florida. We have a PowerPoint, and we're training. It's done by the VOLTS, the volunteer leader trainers, but we're also bringing others up to give the presentation, and we try to do it with 2 at a time. We do this twice a month, and at the end of it, we have a survey that just basically asks if they understood anything, if they, if we covered it too quickly, too slowly, whatever. It's more about how we did in the presentation, but it is also a way you can gather data from people who have attended these Zoom meetings. We do it across the state on Zoom.
And so, Gloria, when you do those meetings, are they open to people who have expressed an interest in volunteering? Or
It's the people that have signed up on aarp.org that ends up on your prospect list.
Mhm.
It comes
Okay.
from the interest form, and there's another title of the form. So we do this. We send out invitations for the last 15 days. We do this twice a month, and we do 2 trainings a month, every other week. And one's in the daytime and one's in the evening. So we catch those people who are still working. Some of them are working full time, some part time, and that's how we tell them everything that as quickly as we can within like a 30-minute presentation of what we like about volunteering with AARP. Then after that, we send them an application. And if they want to continue, then they return that application and we get it to the correct ASD depending on the region in the state. And then they take it from there. They reach out personally within each region to people who are on that list. And, it's like everything else that we do. Someone was mentioning they had like 250 signed up, but only 110 showed up. Well, it's the same thing. You may have 10 people you send the invitation to, 7 of them may sign up, and maybe 3 of them finally actually attend. And if you get 1 out of them that actually signs up to be a volunteer, it really, people change their mind. things intervene, whatever, or they
Right.
don't like what they heard, maybe. That's
Mhm.
always possible, although I can understand that.
Right. Don't get that. Okay, great.
Great.
Thank you
Thank
for
you,
sharing.
Gloria. And I see in the chat that Dennis says that Speakers Bureau presentations now include a QR code for attendance response and follow-up in Tennessee. So another wonderful way to use that follow-up mechanism and that simple QR code. So Deborah, I'm gonna turn it over to you so you can get some of your questions in.
Okay, that's fine. And I think we may have already dabbled in some of these, but this is thinking from the volunteer's perspective. And it's what barriers do volunteers face when leading events, and how can staff remove them? And I know we've already mentioned a couple of things in terms of the finances and how finances are handled. But is there anything else that you see that might be something we need to work on to make it smoother, more simple, make it more easy to translate the process to either other things, more people, what else do we do?
I don't want to be talking and
It's
instead of
okay,
everyone
go on.
else, but one of the things we have two leaders of our speakers bureau, our in-person speakers bureau,
Okay.
one in Broward County and then one in Miami-Dade County. And they get the data and the contact and the contact information. And then we present it to the entire volunteers in the South Florida area, and they can sign up. We have it on a Google sheet where they can see everything that's happening in the next 2 or 3 months, and they can sign up for it there. Then it's a matter of that person having the right equipment, getting in touch with the place where we're presenting to know if we have to bring a longer cord or whatever, and also obtaining the supplies to take. And then you have to start early gathering all that data. Many of us don't live close enough to pick up supplies where they're being stored, so they send them out to us by FedEx or something. So it's an organization is set up, and it's set up to be seamless, but I'm sure, like anything, there are bumps on the road.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, Gloria. Baron?
Yeah, and I'm going to preface this by saying this is clearly a work in progress, so I'm not making a categorical statement about my Ann Arbor team. But one of the things that we're still trying to really get organized to get some barriers out of the way is the volunteer portal, where people actually sign up for, decide what time frame within the event they're going to participate, and then have a consistent messaging from the doing of that portal sign up piece to the then calendar, which is a calendar of the things that we're doing over the next 3 months or 1 quarter. We have our meeting tomorrow, for example. We'll be looking at the last quarter of the year for that. Oftentimes, we'll be looking at a calendar up on a screen, and half a dozen people in the room will say, well, I signed up for, where's my name? So the thing that we're seeing is kind of a bump, but it is a work in progress, is trying to ensure that the logistics behind the curtain, if you will, are matching up and marrying what we say go do to what we actually then see, so that we can actually act on what we believe we are supposed to be doing, if that all makes sense.
No, it does. It absolutely makes sense.
And that portal is a work in progress, but I'm very confident it's going to get better in the days ahead.
I know we've been telling ourselves that for some time, and we're going to stay positive, But does anyone, have you encountered in your large numbers of volunteers, for example, or any volunteers, having them have difficulty because they need to Okay, I'll just say one of the things we did the other week, we were buying decorations for an event because it was going to be something for other volunteers, and it wasn't the kind of decorations you normally have at the AARP office. And it turned out that the people who had agreed and had the most interest in decorating also had the least ability to access funds at that point to then do it. But to keep their situations quiet, I gave them the money as an example so that then they could go buy what was needed. And then they brought the receipts back and I put it in and got the reimbursement for it because it's not as much of a pain to me. But I felt bad for the people who were so excited about wanting to be a part of this, but then they started going, how am I going to pay for this part? You know, and this was a couple of $100, you know, which it's, and it wasn't something, it wasn't, I mean, we don't have petty cash funds around or anything. So I didn't know if things like that ever get to be a problem, and how do you deal with it? Other than do things like I do, just pay for it.
I'd probably turn it over to the ASD.
Yeah.
Let her pay for it.
You know, and that's probably a possibility. But when you've got a very small staff, and I know Florida's a lot bigger,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's, and you know, just some additional challenges. But this wasn't to pick on the ASD. It's more, how do we make sure that our volunteers always feel like they can contribute at the same level as everyone else? And so
Yeah.
that's all I was trying to figure out. How do we do that? You know, because I don't want to embarrass anybody, but I want them to understand they're not just ideas, but their entire contribution is really important. So
Mhm.
I think putting people on the activity team,
mhm,
they automatically have a role and they're identified. I mean, when we do our project report, their names get used when we
mhm.
report out. Sometimes some meetings you go to and 12 people will have worked like beavers getting something done, but you never know who did it or what they did or how they did. So I think, just giving people a pat on the back publicly helps volunteers to stay engaged. And it also helps new volunteers become willing to learn new stuff so they can be a part and play an equal role in getting things done. Um, whenever I'm the head of the Speakers Bureau here, and I always join a real experienced speaker with a novice, and whenever they go out to speak publicly, both of them go together, and so it helps them to come aboard and gain speed very fast, get up to speed really much quicker. So, and those are kind of things that I think helps them feel like they're an equal part of and not feel less than in anything that we do.
Great. Okay. Anyone else have some suggestions or ideas about how we avoid barriers, how we make sure that we're offering high quality events, whatever that means to each of us and to our states?
I think,
And
Deborah,
mhm,
just speaking from the wonderful relationships I have with our staff partners,
mhm,
Kathy, Tara, Christina, anytime there's a perceived barrier, they're always very willing and able to help, mitigate that very easily. So I think, just keeping that open line of communication with your staff partners. They don't expect us to spend a lot of money that we don't have, and we don't even have to go into the I don't have it. We just say this is a need, and they work within the parameters that they have to make it happen. And I know Michaela has been a tremendous resource too. She makes things between her and Steph. They can make things materialize out of thin air in boxes on your doorstep. So
right. I had that happen.
I need that person. I need one of those.
Yeah, well, but we just all reach into Michaela, because I needed fidgets for this event that we were doing. And lo and behold, fidgets came to me in a FedEx box from Nashville.
Like,
Thank
you
you,
know,
Michaela. Right, it was just
air.
magic. And to the point where people in the committee on which I was working locally, and I said, I can get the fidgets. I'm sure I can get the fidgets. And when they came, they said, what are fidgets anyway? And lo and behold, everybody at the event took their fidget with them. They had a chance to play with it, meditate, do some other things. And they were just, it's like, oh, this makes sense. And it was a part of their takeaway. So
What was the
thank you,
program about?
Michaela.
What was the program that you used fidgets with?
We were doing a meditation scan for your body, an entire meditation scan, quietly with music, quiet music in the background, kind of thing. And you, as to calm yourself down, you were able to use the fidgets.
Was that for volunteers? You did that for
That
volunteers,
was
not for the public?
volunteers, right?
Okay, all right.
It was all volunteers. And so they were, normally you get your volunteer team sometimes anyway, saying things like, do I have to sit through this again? I don't really want to do this. And then we found we had the volunteers that were on our team, like Ramel talked about, these people who raised their hand and said, I can decorate, I can do this, I can do this. Met every week, did the whole thing. And then came up with the agenda and what was going to happen in the session. And we came up with things like a gratitude period at the end, asking staff and anyone to bring pictures that had been taken of team members doing work. And then they were each in tables, put those pictures together and to tell a story about what they were grateful for in terms of their experience with AARP. And it again was something I wouldn't have thought people would have enjoyed the way they did. We could not keep them quiet. Everyone was sharing pictures. And when we had our shred event this week, the staff put out some more pictures that hadn't been taken. And everyone was still, instead of wanting to go to the shred event, wanting to get some more pictures. And, oh, here's me. This was 4 years ago. What was I doing? And, it was amazing how that worked. And so, in any case, that was part of the day, but it was all for just volunteers and people who normally come and complain. No one complained. Staff didn't hear one complaint, which was yes. It's amazing. So, okay, well, I've rambled on enough here, and I did want to tell you, I put into the chat, and I'm going to make it available for you now. It's a document, and here we are talking about simplifying volunteer-led events, and this one is called Clarifying Questions. And so I've made that available to you. It's about 3 pages long, but so much for simplification, but in any case, and I'll put this on the chatter group, the portal as well. All right. So thank you all for coming today, and I appreciate all the comments that people have made.
Great discussion.
I think it was I know it was helpful to me, and I've learned something from each of you, as I do every time we do these. I thank Dr. Mary, obviously.
And thank
we
you,
couldn't
Deborah.
Couldn't do it without her. And then, of course, OVE and Kathy is here today as our partner in crime sometimes. Okay. Next meeting for this group is going to be on September 8th. And continuing in the process that we had started over the year, Strategic planning with volunteers, co-creating the vision is the title for next month. So
That's the day after Labor Day, so don't forget us.
yes. And knowing that every one of you is on my mailing list for 383 people to get the reminder notice, but and there are other ways that we'll do that as well. But I think that's going to be an important opportunity to talk about and remind people how to keep volunteers engaged in strategic planning.
Hey, Deborah, real quick before we sign off, I wanted to
Yes.
tap into something that Dennis made a comment on earlier in the chat about the
Okay.
DIY network. I know for us getting into DIY and then fortunately having this organization that in Michigan is called Live Tech. You may have your own organizations at your state level, but
Right.
I'd love it if one of our future meetings, and maybe it is a strategic plan meeting, would include somebody who, not so much just from the AARP point of view, but that's useful, but also other people, and I'd be happy to volunteer our person in Michigan, from these third-party contract groups that help set up and arrange for the successful event. Because I know for a lot of the barrier issues that came up today, questions that people had, that having a third party take all that load off you, the volunteer, has been hugely beneficial to the volunteer engagement. So maybe not for September's meeting, but for a future meeting, think about bringing somebody that could speak to that and sort of the lessons they've learned with the local chapter they've worked with.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Baron. I really appreciate that suggestion. And I don't know that it's not a good idea for us to try to reach out to find somebody for next month as well, for September. So I'll be in touch with you to get a name so you don't have to divulge that now just in case the person decides not to. So thank you very much for doing that.
Deborah?
Thank you all. Yes, Becky.
Contact me. I have some information on that, on who might present and who does the DIYs with Turnkey.
Okay. We'll get right back to you. Thank you.
All right.
Ms.
Thank you
Becky.
guys for allowing me to join without my picture.
Oh,
It's one of those off days, off camera days.
we do what we have to. The fact is you were here, you were able to listen, and you're contributing. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Thank you all
Deborah,
very much. Yes,
Are
ma'am.
it's over. Okay, never mind.
Yes.
We'll talk about it next time. I wanted to, we
yes,
still,
Ramel.
we ended 2:55 or 3:00.
No, 250.
Oh, 2:50. Okay, we're over.
Uh-huh.
I don't want to keep
Yeah,
people
we're over
waiting.
by 3 minutes right now.
Yeah, we're over. I'll save it for another time. Okay.
Okay.
Thank
If
you.
you want to write to me, I will respond. I think most people will attest to that. dturner@aarp.org. And I'll
Do that again,
respond.
please.
dturner@aarp.org.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And we can in between these sessions, we can talk about things. Okay.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye. Goodbye, Gloria. Goodbye, Ramel. Goodbye, Brady.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, she's gone. All right.
So we had a small
May
group.
not be a hook. Do you want to stop recording?
Yes, because otherwise, like I said, I'll have to keep trying to cut it off here. Sure you want to stop?